This meeting is.
All right, everybody. Welcome to this DHIS2 Academy meetup. Thanks for joining. This will be more of a hands-on kind of presentation. Feel free to ask questions throughout. All right, and it is being recorded as you just got the message. And the idea is really just to talk through different use cases and implementations of DHIS2. And before I go formally into the presentation, which will be very, very short, as I said, it's going to be more focused on presenting and demoing. You can always engage within the community of practice, ask questions at community.dhis2.org related to different topics. All right, so let me just share my presentation and we can get started. All right, so this is cold chain equipment and temperature management using DHIS2. And we'll go through a few different features and data use examples of how you can use DHIS2 to manage your cold chain equipment. And also for temperature management, we've seen that there was a lot of content for one meetup. So I think the focus will be really on the equipment management, and the temperature will have more of that in a follow-up meetup. All right, so I am Brenno Horst, LMIS Tech Lead here at HISP Center in University of Oslo. And I'm joined by George McGuire, who's the LMIS Technical Advisor. He'll be presenting quite a lot of the content today and demoing. And I'll just quickly go through the agenda. So it will be this overview, DHIS2 for LMIS, and then jumping right into cold chain equipment lifecycle management. So configuration, looking at data entry and also data use, and we'll then show the demo for registering new appliances, conducting daily inspection, submitting a repair request, and then conducting corrective maintenance, and how the information system can support data entry and analysis for these different steps. These are just some examples that we've picked out. There's many more and adaptations that can be done. And then showing the analytics and outputs that will support the different users during these different workflows. We'll also mention a bit about the equipment monitoring standards and some innovations and developments, and also looking at the use of AI to help with equipment diagnostics. All right, so these are more discussions and just small proposals that we'll bring up. And we just have a few references here. This one we can share with you the slides, and also the recording will be published on our YouTube channel just to see the documents that we use and refer to, some key documents when developing this approach. All right, and to quickly say that for DHIS2, I'll have a recap of the different takeaways, but that you have the implementations and installations of DHIS2 for routine health data management for HMIS data. And this is looking to leverage those implementations in many lower middle income countries that are using DHIS2 as their main health information system, and then implementing this kind of tool to then bring in equipment data, supply chain data of different types, temperature data into the routine reporting cycle within the country to make data available for decision making. So now I'll hand over to George McGuire, who will present himself and then go through some of the demos with us. Over to you, George.
Okay, thanks a lot, Brenno, for the introduction. So my name is George McGuire. I'm the LMIS Technical Advisor working with Brenno at the University of Oslo. And thanks a lot to Gaston for setting up this call. I'm just going to share my screen, right? Brenno, I think you can see, because I can't see my screen while I'm sharing. But okay, I just wanted to mention that everything that we are presenting today, you can access it on the web and the mobile device through this URL. And you have the credentials on the screen, and you can view the configuration, you can view all the analytics, and you can also explore all the functionality on the mobile phone. Don't hesitate to make entries. Everything will be reset at midnight, so you can actually like enter data and synchronize and see how it looks like on the web. But as I said, at midnight it will be erased. Also to mention, Thanks a lot. That's the link for the sandbox. I just want to mention that on the DHIS2 implementation documentation, you have a logistics section, and the details of the configuration are posted here. So it explains the use case, and there's the configuration, mainly of the tracker program, is explained in great detail. So basically, we have an empty DHIS2 instance. You can go follow this guide, and even if you're not a DHIS2 expert, it gives you a step-by-step guide on everything that needs to be configured, including the indicators and the analytics. So completely available to you. We hope you use it. You can, and I'm going to briefly present the configuration. This is also very useful if you want to use this yourself. The user guide is a detailed instruction, but it's a bit abstract, and it's easier if you have some DHIS2 knowledge to actually just go and see how it is configured and kind of reverse engineer it. So this is, I should say, what I'm going to show now. First the configuration, then the demo, is native DHIS2 tracker program. So it's all native functionality. You don't need any additional apps or adds-in or anything. Everything is native. We call it lifecycle management, as we will show, because you can basically follow the equipment from time of installation until the disposal. So you have to give your tracker program name. I will not go into all the details, but you can give an icon and the name. There are some technical settings that are needed. You see, it's a very simple tracker program, so most of the settings are actually empty. But as always in DHIS2, some might be critical, so it's good, especially if something is not working, to check this out. Then you have the attributes. So attributes are the properties of the individual appliances, like a refrigerator and a freezer, which define a tracked entity instance. So for every appliance, like you have a PQS code, a category, you have a manufacturer name, and you can see that without having any programming knowledge, you can just add and remove those attributes that will then appear on the home screen, and you can very easily configure it to your needs. You can change the position of these attributes. You can simplify, you can remove some, you can add some if they are missing, and you can change them. So actually what we are showing, this is just a skeleton, but it can be very easily configured and adapted to your needs. So the program stages, so we have basically grouped the different data that you can collect, because it gives you a better overview, and it's also easier for the analytics. And this kind of represents what we call a life cycle. So you could transfer a piece of equipment from one place to another, then it's installed. You can record your temperature, you can do the daily inspection, the weekly, monthly preventive maintenance. You can record alarms, you can make a repair request, and then a cold chain technician and engineer can make a repair, which is commonly called a corrective maintenance. And eventually you can dispose of the equipment, and you can document that for the record. So you can add and remove stages as you like. It's very easy. You just go to plus, you add a stage, and configure it to your needs. Sorry, I jumped out.
George, just to reinforce here that it can be reduced. So if a more simple workflow, if more specific limited data is needed, that can also be adapted. This does create a workload for data entry. So that's the part of the adaptation. It can be scaled both up and down. It doesn't have to be these exact stages. Over.
Exactly, and you can change the naming, and of course you can configure this in French or in Spanish. Maybe one thing to consider is it's quite a lot of stages, but like the installation is like a stage that is done only once, and the disposal is only done once. So it doesn't mean that you have to record data in all of the stages every day. You can see like here the monthly preventive maintenance, it's a stage, but then you record data only once a month. Then for each of the stages, there are some technical settings. The important point is that you can configure questions that you will see in the tracker, in the data entry form, and those are configured as data elements. So that's very easy. You just add a tracker data element, and then you can add and remove them. You can change the position, and exactly as Brenner said, you can add questions or you can remove them. You can make it as complex or as simple as you like. So this basically concludes, that's more or less everything that you need to do. If you are skilled, you can probably set up this tracker program in an hour, maybe you can even do it in half an hour. So it's not very complicated. And coming back to what Brenner says, you might start with like 2 or 3 stages, very simple, and then you probably have user requests. They tend to kind of spiral, and you could start with a few questions and add them. Then finally, the access. So you just need to confirm which organization units will have access to use this tracker program. And of course, you can always add them if you have more facilities joining. Notifications, you can in principle set notifications, and we haven't done this yet, but you could set a notification for notifying, for example, a district engineer, cold chain technician, in case of a technical fault or if somebody submits a repair request. Okay, I think I concluded the configuration that is done on the web, unless there is any question. Okay, if not, I'm going to switch my screen to the mobile device. So in principle, you can, of course, use, sorry, I have to stop share and reshare my other screen. And here's my mobile phone. Right, I can see it, so I guess it's, so this is the largest I can make it.
It looks good. I think we can see it well, and you can also zoom in on your screen if it's not large enough.
So you can use this application on the web application on a computer laptop, but you can also use it on a tablet or a mobile phone, as I'm going to show, because we think this is kind of the most convenient way of using it, but both is possible. So this is the home screen of the Android, the newest version that was released fairly recently, 3.3.1. So these are the different applications. So by the way, if you log into the same URL that for the sandbox on a mobile device, you can actually explore all these applications and like enter data, play around with them, explore them to see how they actually work. So for today, we have I just mentioned that we have biomedical equipment lifecycle management, which is like more general for any kind of healthcare equipment. So that could be for ultrasound machines or for ECG monitors or for suction machine. And basically the idea is exactly the same, except that the questions are customized or let's say more generalized, because on a suction machine, you're not recording temperature, for example. But it's the use case is more wider than only cold chain equipment. So for today, focus on the most commonly probably used piece of healthcare equipment in clinics, that is a refrigerator. So by tapping on it, you just open the application. So you have a filter on the top where you can filter for different organization units. Normally, you won't have to bother with that because it will be managed through the user settings. I just want to show something particular here. So what we have done is we are basically following the PQS, WHO PQS catalog for the attributes, for the specifications of the equipment, because we think that probably most of the refrigerators are coming from this or like have a pre-qualification by WHO, But of course, it's not limited. So you can also register any other refrigerator or freezer, even if it is not in the catalog. But this is just like to help you, because it allows you to copy the data if you set up one of these appliances. So I'm going to show here that these are the attributes that I showed before. So you have the PQS category, the PQS code, you have the manufacturer, the company name, even the storage capacity. But again, if you don't want all these details, you can remove them or you can hide them. And that's already the first application, that you can basically have inventory for every facility. Probably you have only 1, 2, or 3 refrigerators, but you have an inventory with the precise technical specifications. So the reason we have set up this PQS catalog, it's manually configured for now, is that when you want to set up a new piece of equipment, that you don't have to like copy paste all of the attributes of the specifications every time. Of course, you can search for a piece of equipment if you have several, maybe for the district, at the district level. That's like a native tracker capture Android functionality. We'll not show everything today. What I want to show is how to add a new appliance. So let's say I'm going to present today, let's say I want to add a new refrigerator to Mahasot. Then I can open this screen. It's going to give me all the attributes, so you can locate your refrigerator and find the location, put a pin for the coordinates, and then at the bottom here you can record the details. So some of them are selected as a drop-down menu, so you can select where you have installed it. So in this case, we installed it in the pharmacy. You can select PQS category, which is like refrigerators, cold boxes. You could add other devices if you wanted. Then enter the PQS code and the type of appliance. So some of them are drop downs, actually most of them. Others you need to type in and enter the number manually. So you could do that on the web, on the mobile device, or on the web. So this, I will not complete this now because it not to spend too much time on all the details. There's also another possibility. I will not show you the entire process, but just to mention that it's possible, and it's documented on the website, although I have to be honest that I need to update the procedure for the newest Capture app version. So basically what you can do is what we call cloning. Let's say that you have delivered a refrigerator to you, which is this Westfrost Iceland refrigerator with the PQS number 70. So all these specifications from the catalog apply. And in order to avoid that you have to enter them one by one, you can create what is a relationship. So it's a kind of a workaround. So you create a relationship and then you select this relationship that is configured. You have to select it then from the drop-down menu. It's a bit of a lengthy process, and then you select the piece of equipment, and you can then complete the specifications. Yeah, you select the place where you want to set it up, and then you can like add the details of the refrigerator. And we have configured one additional feature. So I'm going to just show you that if you configure for a new device, you can, there are some of the new equipment, they have like a plaque on the refrigerator with a GS1 data matrix code. And I will not demonstrate it now, but just to mention that it's possible, you can here on the GS1 data matrix code, you have like a barcode icon. If you select it and you scan the barcode, then the serial number, the product number, the production date will be automatically populated, and you don't need to enter it manually. Okay, so I'll wait for any quick questions, and otherwise I'll move on to the demo of the actual application. Okay, don't hesitate to ask any question or make any comment. If anybody is using this, we'd love to hear from you on how we can improve it. So I'll continue with a short demo on how this application is actually used day to day. So I'm setting up here. We are at Meetup. Normally, if you will configure every user so they have access only to one organization unit. So probably the organization unit will appear by default, and you don't even have to select it. So I have set up a refrigerator. First of all, sorry, I wanted to show the drop-down menu. Sorry, my mobile device can be a bit slow sometimes. Sorry for that. So on the drop-down menu, if you open the drop-down menu, this is what I wanted to show. You can see you can see the same specifications, the details, in case you need that as a reference. And if you type on the appliance, then it basically opens the actual tracker program. Okay, I think I insulted the app with my failed relationship. So I will not enter the data for everything. I will just show you that you can basically okay, yeah. I'm sorry for that. It's a bit faint, but this is the first possibility of a transfer. So you can see that this refrigerator was sent from Ahasot, and it was received, transferred to Meetup, and then it was received. Meanwhile, there's a native way in Tracker Capture to transfer equipment from one organization unit to another. So that would be a cold chain transfer. Probably not very likely that you move equipment from one place to another, but we added it on the request when we consulted on the application. So then the next step will be the installation. And you can read, there's a short, like the cold chain technician can make a short report. So the refrigerator was set up, connected to the power supply, was tested, the staff was briefed. Test report was compiled and filed at the district store. So this is just to document the date, the time. You can add the person who have set up the equipment and that everything was working. So then the next step is a temperature recording. So I can show this kind of an optional step where you select temperature recording. It would default to today's date in the organization unit. And then you just enter the temperature. Let's say I read the temperature 6.5 degrees, and you select on plus and complete the event, and you have entered the data for today. So it's as simple as that, nothing complicated using the application. So you can see here, this is the entry today, 12th of February, and temperature is 6.5 degrees. Then the inspection report. So we actually had some advice from a cold chain technician to keep this really simple. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, I'm going back to my refrigerator. So advice from a cold chain technician to say keep it very simple, because you don't want to compel the staff to spend too much time on entering data, considering that some of the data will have to be entered every day. So the inspection report, I'm going to enter an event. It again will show automatically the date. And the daily inspection in this case is very simple. Daily inspection completed, whether you completed yes or no. And all you're going to do is going to say that it's functional. Very simple. You could say it's trivial, but still quite powerful. And Brenno will show that on the dashboard. Because imagine that the cold chain technician or anybody else in the country can go on to DHIS2 and can see all the refrigerators in the country and can see whether they are functional or not and can filter for the ones that are not functional. And that's without sending reports that may be delayed, without calling, all just basically in real time on the screen. So for the preventive maintenance, I'm just going to show, this is actually taken from a WHO document. So here, this is a recommendation, what you should basically check every week. So your water removed from the refrigerator, removed water droplets, and then checking the gasket to make sure that it is not damaged. That's it. Again, you don't want to burden the staff with too much data entry. And then you have the monthly preventive maintenance. So that's all that is recommended: to clean with a mild detergent and then clean the grill with a ventilation opening on the side of the refrigerator. And you're basically just confirming that. So that gives a record of all the maintenance that was done by the storekeeper, assuming, right, that they're not just ticking the box, but they're actually carrying this out. Then you can have, so maybe I move on, I'll just mention briefly, you can record alarms and how that was, whether they were, what the reason was and whether they were resolved or not. Actually, you can see it here without opening. So there was an alarm, and the reason was that the refrigerator lid was left open by mistake after retrieving vaccines, and the corrective action was to simply close the lid, and the alarm was resolved. And then the next day there was an alarm again, and that could not be resolved. You can see the report that possible damage of an electric cord during maintenance. So that is basically, I should open it. So this is like the repair request that a storekeeper can make, and it can be viewed by the cold chain technician, as we will then show later. And the final stage for this demo is that the cold chain technician that is carrying out the repair can then, when the repair is completed, make an assessment. So indeed, electrical cable was damaged during maintenance. Somebody accidentally cut the cord, and the power cable was replaced. The equipment was tested and restored to service. So something I did not show is that you can also make the storekeeper submitting the repair request can also make take a picture of the damage so that the cold chain technician can maybe assess it and take the right tools. So I think that completes the demo on the mobile device. I apologize. I think my memory is full and I have to clean it. And I'll stop sharing and let Breno show what you can do with this data in the DHIS2 analytics.
All right, that's great, George. Thanks for that. So quickly going through one specific use case then where you have the request that's made from a facility for a repair request. So now me working as a technician at a district level, supporting multiple facilities within a district and needing to plan my rounds, I can come in, and if I'm doing this daily or weekly, I can look at my dashboard, and here I have a configured dashboard with some of that data showing all of the different facilities. And here I have the Mahasot facility, Meetup, Chantabuli, that have different refrigerators that have been registered with all of their details and information. And then further down, I have a table with different repair requests. So here is the first example that George showed where there was an urgent request and an electric power cable was replaced. So you have when the request was submitted and completed, the intervention details from the technician that I would have written in. Equipment restored to service, yes. Technical fault resolved, yes. And you have this data to follow up on the repair. And then here I have some outstanding repairs. So I see that there's nothing that's been done for these repairs here. So I can then plan and see what needs to be done. I have a description of what the repair request is and some information as George mentioned. So if I quickly navigate to my program, I can go through the web now. The same program which George showed on the mobile. I look at a specific facility. So I'm working within this district and I'm looking at this now Chantabuli facility where I have to support. And I saw that there was a repair request. I plan my intervention and I can see here the same stages and the same data that was shown on mobile. And I can see here's the repair request. Refrigerator failed completely following a short circuit. I can go into that and see more details. I can see George is very detail oriented and has even included an image for me to see what the problem is. So I can go back, plan my trip, and once I'm there, I can fill in my corrective maintenance report. So I'm there today. We fill in the date. I can write a small report on the technical fault. I can write the intervention. I can also write a small list of different parts that were used. Fault resolved, yes. Equipment restored to service. Any of these fields, the entirety of the form can be customized. You can make fields mandatory or not, depending on the requirements, right? And we can then complete this. And we now have a confirmation with information of how the repair request was completed. And that data is available through the dashboard, showing the status of all of the different requests. And of course, it can be filtered for the ones that have been completed or not. And you have some other data as well, for example, showing functional status of devices, looking at different districts. And that way you hold an overview of facilities from a higher level, and this data can be aggregated here, quite practical from a district level, planning operational activities, maintenance and repairs. But it can also be at a national level where you have a full overview of functional and non-functional device, and in practice have a full inventory of all of the equipment within a country. So this is the kind of aggregation of data that's very powerful within DHIS2 when you have this incorporated as part of the regular reporting cycle and you integrate some of these processes into this kind of regular reporting tool. And then these dashboards can then be created for the different levels that need to make operational decisions as we showed, but also planning and strategic, if it's strategic procurement, where will you target funding and investment for new devices that should be procured. You can have a map, for example, showing the rate of alarms and seeing if that's concentrated in one or another region or district and so on. And in that way, target where those investments should be made. So there's quite a lot of potential that allows, powered by this routine information gathering and operationalizing of this data. All right. George, any other words on the analytics now?
Yeah, I'll share my screen and I'll show basically what you can see, how you can use this at the facility level. So we like to make like libraries. Yeah, maybe I see. Just to mention that you can also create maps where you can see the functional, non-functional equipment. There's only one here, so it's not that visible, but you could basically make a map for the whole country to show which pieces of equipment are faulty. So at the facility level, I can basically, you can see the same data that you can also see in on your mobile device. And by the way, you can also configure these reports on the mobile device in the offline analytics. So I can see on my temperature record here. So this one, this visualization has fainted for the daily inspection. So you can see here the alarm reports. You have a complete overview. You have the date. You can see the alarm cause. You can see the corrective action. You can see here. This is how it is configured currently, whether you were able to resolve the alarm or not. And if not, then you might probably escalate it to your supervisor, like the last one where the refrigerator failed. You have here a record of your weekly maintenance. So the cold chain engineer or yourself, you can check to make sure that you're reporting. You have the monthly maintenance. So it's just a complete record. It's all configurable. You can use more or less of these columns. You can add information. And then you have the corrective maintenance. So here is the report that I showed earlier of the cold chain technician that replaced the power cord and then tested and put the equipment back into service. So it's a very simple application, but if you think of that, it's all on a central database. It can be shared with any other user at the facility, at the district level, at the country level, with any other stakeholder that you might want to share with it without having to write paper reports and send them by emails, and everything can be compiled and displayed in reports as you like. Yeah, and this is the last line listing just to show you that this is kind of the whole catalog. So it could be, of course, you could have non-PQS appliances in that list. So if you wanted to list all the different types of refrigerators that are used in the country, just to have an overview and to maintain a record of the different appliances that are used, then you could also configure that as a separate OU. So this is our workaround. So does anybody have any? I'm not following the chat. Does anybody have any questions so far or suggestions?
Bruno, someone is asking how to get access to the system, and so I think basically if we open the link here, lmis.integration in the new browser, then they just need to enter admin district, right?
So you're asking for accessing the sandbox?
For that, you see
the question. Yeah. So if you want to, if the question is the sandbox, Brenner shared the URL. You have it here. You can also find it on the DHIS2 website, and you have here the password for the web user. You have the demo password. Sorry, the username is demo and the password is stock123 exclamation mark. And if you want to log into a mobile device, then you have the username here, demo_mobile stock123. The difference is that when you log into the mobile device, you will have access only to like 3 or 4 organization units. This is just to avoid that you download a lot of data and then you have the problem like my device, that it can't, the screen freezes. While on the web, you can see all the organization unit. I hope that was a question, Gassim.
Yeah, I think so. But if their question that they want to, a whole LMIS setup and all that, then that's a different case. This is just a demo, right? But then to run a complete implementation, that's a different scenario altogether. You'd have to set up the instance,
right? I see.
Right, and the whole thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So just briefly, I mean, our recommended way of implementing this. If you're not using DHIS2 yet, you could theoretically do it on your own, but it's it requires experience and it's quite technical. So the recommended path is to contact one of the 20 plus HIS groups around the world. They have expertise. They do that for a living. And basically, you will need to set up a project and then first define the exact user requirements and then set up a server and configure the server and the user. So there's some technical legwork behind that. Also, if you are already using DHIS2 in a country, in principle, it's easy. You can just add a tracker program. In practice, it takes some experience and there's quite some configuration. But maybe I'll let Brenno answer on the practicalities of the field implementation.
Yeah, I think depending on the question though, if it's somebody who just wants to test this out before they have any discussions about a large scale, ministry level implementation, which is quite a big thing. If you just want to try this out on your local computer, you can deploy DHIS2. The perhaps easiest way, Gassim, also correct me if I'm wrong, is using a Docker container. And we have a lot of documentation on how you can deploy that. I have an instance running on my MacBook here, so you can relatively easily get that up and running, but you will not be able to have, as George mentioned, it's not for large scale users and so on, but for testing. And then based on that local instance, you can configure or simply implement the metadata configuration package for this program or any other kind of program. So first deploying using Docker locally, and then second implementing the configuration. You can configure on your own following the documentation, which we showed at docs.dhis2.org, or you can implement the metadata configuration package and from there adjust it to your needs. But that might be the easiest way. You can also deploy DHIS2 in other ways that will be maybe more demanding. There's a question also from George Shameng on the chat related to accessing the dashboard. George, I think George and I have not shared it with the demo user, so we simply need to share this dashboard with the demo users. Or our mistake. I think we can do that quickly. Yeah.
Right.
So we shared it between us, George, but not with the demo.
Yeah. Thanks so much for telling me. Apologies. Indeed. So we'll do that. Maybe I'll just take the opportunity. So you will have the dashboard as soon as we configure the access. Sorry for that. I just wanted to show something else. A few minutes left on some of the ideas we have for the future development. This dashboard takes a bit time to loading. So I already mentioned that we are working on the EMS standard that is mandatory since this year for all new equipment to maintain the WHO pre-qualification. And it's quite a complex subject that would warrant a separate meetup. But the important point is that all of these refrigerators have to have built-in data loggers. They can still have like proprietary remote temperature monitoring systems. That will continue. But that has to be, if that is provided by a manufacturer, that has to be in addition to the basic data logger. So any EMS refrigerator will have a data logger, and it will log all the data for 2 years. And there's also a mandatory requirement that all of this data has to be available through a USB port. So what we are working on is to build an app that will allow you to extract the data from any of these refrigerators and put them into a tracker program. So I'm sharing a dashboard of what we think is the potential apart from the maintenance of the equipment. We have like configured some fictitious scenarios. So you can see, for example, on the first chart, you have a slow increase of the temperature. So typically that could be, the reason for that could be that there's a leakage of the coolant, or that the ventilator opening is being clogged. and therefore the cooling is deteriorating, and this would give this kind of picture. You have here, this one is an interesting use case where you can see that the refrigerated temperature is high during the week, but on the weekends it's okay, and that could be caused by excessive opening of the refrigerator lid during the weeks, or it's forgotten when vaccine is taken out. And the middle chart here would be an example of a thermostat that is broken and the temperature just goes erratically up and down. So you have the possibility for this kind of analysis. So this is a whole year, so it's a bit difficult to read. So what we have done is already also created like a 30-day dashboard. Here what you can see is like the total alarm time, the total number of hours that the refrigerator is above or below the alarms. This is an overview dashboard where you can see the minimum, the average, and the maximum temperature. You can see the suggested range from 2 to 8 degrees. So you can very quickly look at the chart and you can see the excursions. You can see here in red, these are the alarms, freezing alarms, the duration. So you can see here was 11.25 hours that the temperature was below 2 degrees. And here you can see that the temperature was above 8 hours, above 8 degrees for 23.75 hours. And you can put all of that in a chart. And you can have all the data also on pivot table and put everything also in the line listing. And yeah, I wanted to have two last comments. The first one is that on this kind of refrigerator pathologies, if you want, we are exploring the idea, and we had some preliminary consultations with an expert, basically to use this data, to feed this data into an AI machine learning program. So you probably have heard about CHAP for the climate model. We have explored it for forecasting. We think it could be promising to explore this for diagnostics. So the idea is that you can record your temperature alarm data. Forgot to mention that here you have a chart. It gives you the alarm times in hours, and it has a pattern, and patterns are very good for machine learning, and basically feed the data into a bespoke machine learning program, and then the AI will indicate 1, 2, or 3 possible reasons for repairs and help the guide the cold chain technician, the engineer, maybe even the storekeeper on what the possible reasons are. If there's a quick fix, like maybe cleaning the gasket, or something like cleaning the ventilation opening is something that anybody can do, but maybe you don't think of it. Or maybe the refrigerator is too close to the wall and all you need to do is to push it 10 centimeters away, and it will improve this situation. So this is something we are trying to explore, to find a collaboration for. And the very last thing I want to mention is that this PQS catalog, something we have been waiting for a long time, is now available as a JSON file. So of course it has been available as a PDF document for, I don't know, 20 years or longer, but now you have a JSON file and you have all the data in a nice digital format. And we are looking into a way to import this JSON file easily into DHIS2, so that if you start a project, you don't have to like manually record all these attributes and spend all the time and maybe make mistakes. And it would also allow to kind of update the catalog. Occasionally there are new devices that are added. So we're looking into that, which would be like a small puzzle that will help everyday use. Okay. Yeah, I don't know if there's any other questions. There's something in the use case configuration app. I don't know if Kasim has some advice on that. Probably too technical for me.
Sure.
Brent already answered. Sorry.
Yeah, or Bruno. Basically, sometimes some of these technical questions, they do require debugging. They require, not just a screenshot, but also the logs. So when you open the app, um, does it open? Does it show an error? All of these questions. So it's helpful if you create a topic with like a copy of the log. What are errors that you see? A screenshot of the issue. Um, what steps do you take to install the app? What version of DHIS2 are you using? Because I guess older versions it might not work, right? Am I correct? For older versions? So there is a compatibility between which DHIS2 instance version of the DHIS2 instance you're using.
Yeah, for sure. I think George Shamang in the chat, if you can go through the route that Gassim recommended, it could be everything from browser and the browser version you're using to many other things. So we need a bit more information to understand. And then someone also had an issue with loading data for the dashboard, which George was showing. I just tested it and it worked fine. So I'm not sure it could again be an issue with as simple as a browser or that we made a mistake in sharing the data with that specific user account. George and I get caught using our own admin user account, and then it could be that we innocently neglected to share the data with the demo account. So apologies if that's the case.
Yeah.
We'll look into it.
Yeah, I have two things to say. Right, that's kind of my trap. I always fall into share, so we'll do that today. The other thing is that I need to check is we're having some clockwork. So I actually showed you this on our development instance, and I did kind of copy the data to the sandbox, but it might not have completed. To be honest, I didn't check. So I will make sure that we commit. There's one thing that was not working before that I wanted to show. As I'm sharing my screen now, right? There's huge potential on the maps. So this is what a district engineer, sorry, the Ministry of Health, if you have a cold chain department, could look at, and you can basically could see a map, all the refrigerators that are working and not working in the country, and then mouse over and you could see which facilities. You could also like count alarms per facility or per district or per province. So I think this kind of analytics is really useful because it gives you a quick overview of the situation in the country. Thank you.
All right, if I can quickly just summarize some of the benefits and the points that we're trying to get across here, and looking also at a global level, and we'll open up for questions, but I'll very quickly go through them. So first, it's having this analytics and global overview of all equipment. So you have the ability to have your functional status, the location, the donor, and other data dimensions that you can configure to have that data be recorded for all of the equipment, the cold chain equipment you have in the country. And this can also be done through routine reporting. So it's using that HMIS regular reporting procedure and adding this type of information. It's also starting small and then iterating to see the capacity to actually have this data. It doesn't mean starting with 12 different workflows and program stages, as George showed from the start. It could be just one or two, capturing some very simple data, as simple as simply having once a week equipment status, functional or not functional, and nothing more. And just there you have a single data point per device per week showing the status of your equipment. Start small and then build from there. And then having the data availability at different levels, different dashboards and visualizations were shown that can be used at a local level, at the facility, at the district level, and then nationally. And this can be managed through different user groups and different needs. And of course, it can be adapted to what each user actually needs. The customizability, it can be flexible, starting small, being more complex, also integrating with other data devices, temperature data being a key one. And as I said, it was too much content to have all in one meetup, so we'll keep that for the next meetup, is temperature data and integration with different loggers and different tools. So that is another whole topic that we can discuss, but there's a lot of possibility for customizability. Alignment with the WHO PQS standard, and George got into that as well, having those different attributes and data automated in the registration of the equipment to have it available. And then finally, that it's a holistic solution, looking at one platform that can have data for your immunization rate, your health service data. You can also have your vaccine stock reporting, and then having equipment data, building visualizations and dashboards that have triangulated data from these different sources, and seeing, how one affects the other, with the overall objective looking to improve vaccine coverage rates and immunization rates, and how all of these different data points can help support that overall objective. And of course, lastly, and maybe importantly in this time as well, is that you have leveraging of the DHIS2 platform implemented in over 80 countries at a ministry level, in over 100 countries, including independent organizations. So there's a lot of know-how, expertise, competence, also infrastructure, devices, people trained on both the end user level, but also the implementation and administrator level, that can put in place. And as George mentioned at the start, if you're an experienced DHIS2 implementer, you can configure this from scratch in under an hour. It's a relatively straightforward deployment. Of course, the questions related to scale up and implementation and routine reporting, those are other challenges, and challenges related to the scale. But in a country, particularly that has already these routine procedures, policies in place, it's much less of a lift in implementing an entirely new, separate platform. And last but not least, that this is based on an open source solution where the code is available and then the infrastructure is owned and maintained by the country. They can choose to outsource that to a supplier or a cloud supplier, but they can have servers where they own the data, the access to the data. So there's no question, any question related to data sovereignty or access. So those are the very broad takeaways that we wanted to have from this presentation. I will stop the recording so people can ask their questions freely and not be recorded. If there's any now, please go ahead, raise your hand. Gassim, George, if you have any other points you want to add.